Hello and welcome everybody to my first ever Risk of Rain 2 Survivor Guide. Today we're going to be breaking down False Sun, the newer survivor in Risk of Rain 2, a hybrid melee character with great long range capability. So let's get right into it. We'll start with his primary ability, Club of the Forsaken. This is your main melee attack, hitting enemies for 300% damage, and you can hold right click while you're swinging your club to deal a whopping 1500% damage in one hit. It's a solid, reliable early game option to deal with tougher enemies like stone golems and beetle guards, but later on it really becomes redundant and you're mainly relying on your special, which we'll get into in a bit. Next up is Lunar Spikes, the secondary ability. This throws a spike dealing 150% damage. It also applies a stacking debuff called Lunar Ruin. It has a 5-second duration and it increases the damage taken by enemies by 10%. It also reduces the healing that they get, but you're not going to be using it for that most of the times. It starts with 4 charges and has a 4-second cooldown. Each unused spikes gives you attack speed and armor, while used spikes gives you movement speed and HP regen. You can lean into either attack speed and armor or mobility and healing, depending on how many charges you have. You can get more Lunar Spikes charges with growth, which is a mechanic unique to False Sun, and it's triggered by item-based max health increases like Bison Stake, health gains from Infusion, Titanic Knurl, and even equipment like Spinal Tonic affects that. For utility, we have Step of the Brothers. This is probably one of the best mobility skills in the game. This is an omnidirectional dash that deals damage based on how many enemies you hit in its path, and the distance is obviously affected by movement speed, so keep in mind that if you don't have any charges on your Lunar Spikes, that's when it will cover the most distance. It has 2 charges and is on an 8-second cooldown. Now the ability that is going to carry you, Laser of the Father. You charge this for 1.5 seconds to fire a rapid hitting laser that has infinite range that deals 175% damage per hit. It has a base duration of 4 seconds, which scales with growth, and it resets Lunar Spike charges every second you use it. There's also Laser Burst, but I would never recommend it. It deals 1000% damage and recovers 30% of your Lunar Spike charges. You get more stacks of Laser Burst when you get growth, but the growth required to actually trigger an extra charge is probably 5 times more than what you need for a Lunar Spike. So it's very impractical, very gimmicky, and it's very clunky to use. So just stick to the laser that actually works. Being in melee range in Risk of Rain 2 is a death sentence, we all know that. But to be as efficient as possible, in the first few stages you're going to be using your melee skills along with your spikes and laser. It's only later that you're going to start sticking with just your long range abilities. While area of effect is not a problem in melee range, your spikes and laser are only single target, so you have to build some AoE damage for longer ranges. So get some items like a ukulele, some gasoline, will-o-wisp, and that'll be all you'll need to help mitigate that. The thing about False Sun that makes him really interesting to me is the way he makes use of items that don't often see much play. Items like Bison Stake and Infusion are more relevant thanks to his growth mechanic as they feed into his secondary ability and his special ability. For equipment, Milky is an amazing pick. Later in the game, you'll rely more on your laser, and it becomes exceedingly difficult to land the full duration of your laser. So being able to fly around while firing your laser just makes everything so much easier. Another really fun equipment to use on False Sun is Spinal Tonic, because the health you get from Spinal Tonic is considered item based. You get an immediate boost to your growth, getting a ton of extra charges for your Lunar Spikes, and the special duration almost doubles right away. So if you can set it up right with a couple of gestures or a couple of fuel cells, it can easily turn into a god run. If you're playing with Survivors of the Void, a Lyset cell is also worth prioritizing, because it gives you charges on your special, and you can keep spamming it because it reduces the cooldown as well. Another really good Void item to consider if you're just going to go kill Mithrix is Polyloot. A couple of stacks of Lunar Ruin on a boss combined with Polyloot will shred them down. Even with Laser of the Father's lower proc coefficient, it's reliable and highly effective for proccing. False Sun is a well-rounded survivor. In my opinion, one of the strongest as well. His melee abilities give him a strong start in the early game, and his long-range options scale into a very strong late game. The only downside is not having any real loadout options. Laser Burst is very awkward to use, which feels out of place compared to Laser of the Father. I think it does have potential though. I like the concept of Laser Burst, but it's just very bad. It doesn't deal enough damage, it's very clunky to use, so it's like That's the only problem with False Sun in my opinion. False Sun is a strong choice for players who want a hybrid between close and long range combat, with a unique take on max health based item synergies and a very interesting passive which takes some getting used to, but with some practice, False Sun becomes very fun and rewarding. Thanks for checking out this guide. Let me know what you think, or if you have any questions, or if there's another Risk of Rain 2 survivor you'd like me to cover next in the comments below. Be sure to like if you like this guide, or dislike if you dislike it, and until next time, keep surviving.